me your dreams.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact video, and today I'm just going to be going over the 5-star characters in the 4.2 banners, going over their value real quick, and that way you yourself can have an informed decision on who to pull for in 4.2. By the way, if you haven't liked the content, just leave a like and subscribe. So the 5 stars in the 4.2 banner is obviously Furina herself. We also got Baizhu running alongside with her. And on the second half, we got Ayato and Cyno. Furina being the Hydro Archon, she is obviously going to be a must pull. And I say must pull very loosely since this is a single player game. Who the fuck cares? But out of all the 5 stars in this banner, I do think Furina has the best value. She's basically a 5-star Hydro Bennett with an elemental skill that summons 3 Hydro Ozes. The buff from her elemental burst basically comes at the cost of your party's HP, so you do need to bring a healer alongside with Furina, or if you want, you can just use her Numa state to heal your party. Hydro is one of the most flexible elements in the game, and it's pretty fitting since water can basically take any shape it wants, depending on the shape of the container that you use. Hydro just works well with all the other elements like Dendro, Pyro, Cryo, Electro. Hydro is such a very great element. I would say that Hydro is like the second best element in the game. It just synergizes so well with the other elements, you can't really argue the value of Hydro. Furina at C0 is going to be a quick swap character. You're going to be using her burst and her elemental skill and swap out, and that's basically it. She shouldn't be on the field for that long unless you're walking on water or unless you're changing her stance. Or if you have her at C6, since C6 basically gives her Hydro infusion and it also increases her personal damage. Just like with any other 5-star character, her best constellation is going to be C2. At C1, she basically gains 150 fanfare points whenever she uses her burst. The more fanfare points that Furina has, she basically increases the damage or the healing of your party members depending on how much fanfare points she gets. Furina gets fanfare points during her burst when her summons are either draining your party's HP or when they're healing your allies. Since C1 basically gives her a free 150 fanfare points whenever she uses her burst, C1 also increases the limit of her max fanfare points by 150. So since the cap is increased, you can basically get more fanfare points, and the more fanfare points Furina gets, the more damage your party members will do. C2 basically helps with her C1. It basically increases her max HP, and Furina does scale off of HP, so that's going to be pretty good. C2 also increases Furina's fanfare gain, so she'll be able to get more fanfare points a little bit more quickly. And once the fanfare points do reach a limit, she basically gets additional more HP. More HP on Furina means that her Hydro summons are going to be dealing more damage, and with more fanfare points you're getting, your allies will be dealing more fucking damage. Do I really need to say more? She is a very good character. You should definitely pull for Furina. You can never go wrong pulling for an Archon, unless it's Venti. Baizhu is going to be running alongside with Furina. Baizhu is a Dendro healer, and I think Dendro is probably one of the best elements in the game, and I kind of don't want to be that guy, but Dendro is just so fucking good. For one thing, I don't think there's a bad Dendro character yet. Every Dendro character that we had is pretty good. Baizhu is no exception, even though I don't have the man. Dendro is pretty easy to build. Baizhu is no exception. You basically just put HP on Baizhu and just, see him go to work. Since Baizhu is a healer, he is going to work pretty well with Furina, since Furina will be too busy draining your allies' HP. I don't know what more I can say about the man. He's a healer. He heals like fucking crazy. Baizhu C2 is pretty interesting, and it's also, very good. Basically, whenever your character hits an opponent, Baizhu will deal Dendro damage even off field. This damage is considered elemental skill damage. It can only occur once every 5 seconds, so it is pretty useful for applying Dendro off field when you need Baizhu off the field but you need to apply Dendro right away. Baizhu's talent also increases the damage of the Dendro reactions depending on how much HP Baizhu has. If you need a healer for your Dendro comps, then Baizhu is a pretty good character to pick up. I also forgot to mention that his C1 gives him an additional charge on his elemental skill. Cyno has a pretty unique gameplay style. He is a DPS character that's going to be taking a lot of field time, so if you are into that, then Cyno's your boy. In other words, he is a hyper carry, more specifically hyper carry Bloom. Hyper Bloom, Hyper Carry. His attack animations do look fucking dope, especially in his burst form. I might be tempted to pull for the guy. Not to mention his dad jokes are just so fucking funny. Since Cyno is a Hyper Bloom DPS, you can basically build him around Elemental Mastery. We all know how good Dendro is, right? So Cyno is going to be a pretty good DPS. I remembered when he was first released, some people were giving him shit since people were comparing him to Keqing, and Keqing could deal just as much damage as him. I don't really think it matters since you can clear Abyss with either character anyways. Cyno's main source of damage is going to be coming from his Elemental Burst, so he does need another Electro character alongside with him, whether it's Fischl or Raiden, it doesn't matter. During Cyno's burst form, he will be dealing more damage and he'll also be infused with Electro. And during his burst form, you'll basically be doing his elemental skill attack whenever you see an eye pop up in the screen. And that's basically it. He'll be in his burst form for 18 seconds, so he will be on the field for a long fucking time. One complaint I see about Cyno is that once you clear the first mob of enemies, the new mob of enemies will not have any Dendro or Hydro applied to them. So Cyno will basically be stuck in his burst form while you're dealing with those enemies. And since those new mobs don't have Dendro or Hydro applied to them, Cyno will not be dealing as much damage. So you may have to swap him out and try to get enough energy to reach for his burst again. Cyno does have other competitors when it comes to Hyper Bloom damage, like Kuki Shinobu for instance. Kuki Shinobu is a 4-star Electro character and she's a very good Hyper Bloom DPS character. For one thing, she doesn't have the same problem that Cyno has. She doesn't have to hog the field in order for her to deal Hyper Bloom damage. In fact, Shinobu could actually be off field while dealing Hyper Bloom damage from her elemental skill, since her elemental skill can basically apply Electro pretty consistently, which is why Shinobu is very good in Hyper Bloom. And she's also a 4-star, so she's kind of easy to get. Raiden Shogun is also a very good Hyper Bloom DPS character as well, and the Raiden Shogun doesn't have to be on the field for 18 seconds. Cyno is not perfect, but he does deal damage. He is pretty good at what he does. If you like his design and you're into Hyper Bloom, then you should pick up Cyno. Last and certainly not least, we got Kamisato Ayato. Ayato is in a weird spot right now since Neuvillette got released, and Neuvillette is pretty fucking good. Ayato is like the jack of all trades, but he doesn't really master anything. Neuvillette is like the jack of all trades and has big dragon dick damage. Neuvillette does a lot of fucking damage. Way too much damage. The only real thing that Ayato has over Neuvillette is off-field Hydro. To be honest, I don't even know how I can sell you Ayato when Neuvillette exists. Ayato does have flashier attack animations than Neuvillette. I mean, that's basically all I can really say. I don't really see or hear many people talk about the guy. I mean, he kind of just exists. He's kind of just there. I would say that Ayato is a pretty balanced character. He's not like super good, but he's not super bad either. Just pull Ayato if you like him. That's all I can say. Now, when it comes to the weapon banners, the first weapon banner is kind of dog water. Furina does have some pretty decent free-to-play options like the Ferryman, which is a fishing sword. She also has access to the Festering Desire if you've been playing the game for a long time. If you're a free-to-play player, or even a light spender, just use the Ferryman. Just go with the Ferryman and you're all good. Furina's weapon is obviously good on her. It does have the crit damage substat, which is a pretty good stat stick. And since Furina does scale off of crit rate, building Furina around crit rate and crit damage would be pretty easy. But since this weapon is stuck with Baizhu's garbage weapon, I would probably suggest that you just go with the Ferryman. Maybe go for Furina's weapon on her rerun, since maybe her rerun will have a better weapon choice. Baizhu's weapon is trash. That's all I gotta say. It's garbage. Just listen to me, okay? It's a very garbage weapon. You don't need that on Baizhu. Baizhu has plenty of other options, and his weapon is not one of them. The second weapon banner does have higher value than the first weapon banner. Ayato's weapon, the Haran, is a pretty good weapon. It has crit rate as a substat. You also gain elemental damage bonus from his weapon. This weapon does rely on the elemental skills of your allies, since you gain a normal attack bonus whenever your allies do their elemental skills. Cyno's weapon is also pretty good since it also has a crit rate substat. It also provides elemental mastery as well. So if you want to build a Vape Xiangling or a reverse melt Rosaria, this weapon is a pretty good option. And that's basically about it. That's going to be the end of this video. Let me know what you guys think. Which banner are you guys going to be pulling for in Genshin 4.2? I'm very excited for 4.2 since Furina will be here. I am going to C6 Furina. I don't know about the R5 though. That weapon, the Baizhu's weapon, is so shit. I might just pick up one copy of Furina's weapon and that's it. So let me know what you guys think. Any comments, concerns, let me know in the comments, since I typically read every comment, and I will see you guys later.